Thank you. So, a little different, 30-year-old versus 85. I'm going to separate back into 85 years in 10 minutes. And I did start with photography when I was a young kid. I took a picture with my Brownie Hawkeye camera. I took a picture of my sister and took 2 flash bulbs for double exposure and submitted to the paper, and I won a little award for $5 or something. So that led me to be interested in photography. So I have over 130,000 pictures in my file right now. So I went through 130,000 pictures and picked out a few of them. I got so many more I'd love to show you, especially Rotarians. Yeah. This sweater, I went to University of Oslo in Norway. I was there 3 months, and 3 months traveling on Europe. I wore this sweater every single day in Norway.
Wow.
And I'm wearing it again today, and I never washed it.
That's great stuff.
Grew up in Falcon Heights, Roseville, Minnesota. Typical home. Everybody was two kids, 2 families. It was and 2 parents. It was very typical. My outlet, since I didn't have much emotion at the time, I was aware of. I stuffed it all. It's basically exercise, and so I was involved in every sport I can be involved in. My car at the time was not reliable. I worked at the YMCA Camp St. Croix for 2 summers as a camp counselor for young kids. That's being on the right. And then again, outlets of skiing and things like that. Typical was my high school graduation picture, and family going to church every Sunday. Of course, I went to church, Cole Park Lutheran Church. And went to the University of Oslo in Norway, and this is a picture of a grass house I just took there. But the King of Norway, King Olaf, had us up to a summer place, and so went to that. This is the car I was driving at the time. I just loved it. Unfortunately, I banged it up, and that's another story. Went into the Navy at St. Olaf. They said, if you don't want to get drafted, go in the Navy, we'll make you an officer. And so I said, amen. So I did that. So I was in the Navy. This is the ship I was on, the USS Iwo Jima, LPH-2, stands for Landing Platform Helicopter. I was a supply officer there, so dispersing. So it was supposed to be a joke there. We had money all over the place, but I had balance. Bookkeeping every single day with hundreds of thousands of dollars. Went to Hong Kong one time and got $100 million in small bills to pay the people off the coast of Vietnam. Anyway, this is in Quy Nhon, Vietnam, one of the places we were off the coast of. I would put on beach parties for the Marines and Army people. I missed one there, but just a couple of Vietnamese, they gave me a photo album, which is appropriate. Anyway, aboard our ship, we had a little hospital, and so we would bring in wounded and people with napalm. There were some Vietnamese and many of the military. They could surprisingly walk, but they were walking to the Hangar Bay area. After I got out of the Navy, I bought myself a car. I saved a lot of money in the Navy because there's no place to spend it. And so, except on, a few times. Anyway, the point was I bought myself a little Sunbeam Tiger sports car to play with. Got married to my first wife, Betsy, and so this is my grandparents and myself when we got married. We had 4 kids. This is the progression from a little younger. That was a bit later, I guess. Anyway, I joined my father's company, which is a food brokerage company selling food ingredients to manufacturers. Became president in 1978. I don't know why I got that in here. Anyway, this is different than I thought it was. Anyway, the person left there is the commander of Apollo 13, which is the one they rescued. And the ship I was on rescued it, not while I was on it. It was after I got off. But he told me they had scuttled my ship, and so for the movie they had to find one that looked like it for 10 seconds. Anyway, so it's Bob Dolan, right? This is not, I must have downloaded the wrong one. Anyway, this is Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of the forces in the Middle East when we were over there with that project. And so after I was divorced, and again, that was the 70s, and so that's things that happened sexually and so forth. So we wound up getting a divorce. And my second wife, Ruth Ann Ranstrom, lived here in Detroit Lakes. She'd come from Detroit Lakes, lived in Minneapolis. We both had condominiums downtown Minneapolis, which was really nice. He was right in the Nicollet Mall by the Hyatt, and I was just off there in Loring Park and high rises. So we met and decided to get married. I went to Egypt back to the video camera then, a huge pack of stuff, big batteries. Then I met Diane Joliker on the left there. My wife introduced me to her, and the three of us became kind of a team, and we started a nonprofit called One Heart, One Mind.
Yes.
And it's still ongoing today. Although it's pretty much Diane and myself. My wife Ruth Ann passed away of cancer about 25 years ago. Went to Uganda. I could talk hours about all these stories, but anyway, it was in Uganda for some time. This is my wife and I. We wanted to do things the modern way, but also include the old ways of doing things, the old family farm and so forth. So we had draft horses and the old McDonald's farm, a bunch of different animals and stuff. So in Heart and Mind now is with Diane, Gehrke, and myself. We started working with many groups. This is the Tibetans. We're connected with them. What happened, I had a fourplex in South Minneapolis that drug dealers got involved in. I couldn't get rid of it. It was taking my energy, and so I chose to give it away. And Diane said, we'll give it to the Tibetan community because it's the second largest in Minneapolis after New York City. And they're good people who will do the good things. And so we had them up here in Detroit Lakes. Had a couple hundred people at our place from different cultures and backgrounds and different groups there. And so we earned quite a reputation there. I hesitate to share it, but I'll just talk where somebody I met over here, and he said, I said, where do you live? And I said, Cozy Cove Road. And he said, oh, you living by that cult? I said, no, I am the cult. The Tibetan monks would chant in multiple tones at the same time with horses and drums, and we had people from Peru there, from all over the world. And so it's not your typical Minnesota excitement, but what happened, I lived such a conservative life when I grew up. Everybody was the same. I wanted to get out and see the rest of the world and other cultures, other religions, other backgrounds. And after I got the divorce, that really spurred me to try everything from learning massage to studying psychology and the mind and different religions and so forth. So really got out there. Here's the Aborigines in Australia. Spent time with them for 40 days and 40 nights one time, and then another time went back the following year and had many adventures with them in the outback, camping out with them. So we didn't live in hotels, at least we camped out with the tribes. This is where we're camping out in Peru with the Karo Indians, up in Machu Picchu area, up north of that, and also Gotti. So anyway, this is in New Zealand, the World's Cup. One of the ships, the boats didn't make it in the sailing races. I was able to sail that and not command it, but at least have the wheel and so forth. So different countries, Indonesia, Japan. One people we got involved with the Japanese World Peace Prayer Society dedicating peace bowls, and so we dedicated peace bowls. One's at the Home Center, one's at the Rotary Park. So the one here is at Rotary Park, the Rotary Century Park is there because the International President Rotary was actually in Japan at one point. He said, we'd like all the Rotary clubs to dedicate peace bowls. The Japanese already heard about One Heart, One Mind came here, gave us 10 peace bowls to dedicate. So we were already doing that here. We put one at the source of Mississippi, one at State Fairgrounds also. This is Waban School. The principal of Waban School asked if we would dedicate a peace bowl there, and I think it's still there. It was last time I was at the school anyway. I had a heart bypass surgery. These are out of order, but that's all right, doesn't matter. So anyway, that's my kids. They showed up to support me. I don't know what the symbol, the big heart is there. But anyway, I didn't have a heart attack. I went to, over at the DLCCC, I was walking around the track and I told this one guy, said, I used to run around the track and I'm walking. And this guy was a salesman that endorsed me. He said, hey, if you don't call your doctor, I will. And it just kind of shocked me. So I called the doctor, it was on a treadmill, and before I was off the treadmill, he had the appointment with the hospital all set up. So anyway, I didn't have a heart attack, but I had a triple bypass. Many things that occurred with One Heart, One Mind. We have a reputation. One of them was to work with world peace and that sort of thing, but also working with the tribe. And Irma Visner was chief of the tribe. Colin Peterson was in Congress at the time, and we were talking, and Arlen Kankas was the president of MMCDC, CDC, and so there was some controversy going there about the previous administration and money being missing or whatever they thought. So we brought the chief of the tribe and Colin together with Arlen, and they talked about it, and it got resolved. So that was one of our little peace efforts there at our peace center. So the peace center basically was 140 acres. That was my wife's family farm. we bought it, bought out the other kids, moved there, and I gave it to the Peace Center to have it be going forever for world peace. I downloaded the wrong, but that's okay. This is I'm a visitor myself, the state capitol, and worked with also White Bison, which is a group of Native Americans who are doing, they didn't necessarily want to follow the Christian perspective of AA, so they're doing it with the Hunter Eagle Feather Whoop there and so forth, and so I was involved with that. Did a lot of things. I could go on for hours, but basically did a video with them on underage drinking on White Earth, and they wanted to put me in the credits, and it turns out all these kids were talking about how horrible their parents were drinking wise, so I said, no, I don't think I want to be in that. Manolo Duke, of course, another old story. So this is Irma, and Tim Valenti, the governor at the time, myself. China, I went to China for business. I've been in the food business. We're looking at doing freeze-dried strawberries for General Mills project anyway, so I was there in that regard. This is the brother of the last emperor of China who did a calligraphy, I guess I call it calligraphy, and a writing about saying one heart, one mind for me. So this is Irma Visner as a second next to Gerald Durstein and his wife and Joan Durstein. Well, Irma invited me because we're having a Native American Holy Spirit gathering, they're calling it, at the White Earth Reservation at the Christian Retreat Center there called Strawberry Lake Christian Retreat, which Gerald started. So we had a big retreat center there. I never even heard about it before. Irma invited me as their guest, so I wound up meeting them, staying connected, wound up studying under him. And Joanne was just at her home last week from Florida, where she'd written a book called Following the Fire about her father. So I had a chance to travel to many countries. I just picked a couple of them. In Rome or Greece or Paris, France. So I tried to start a couple businesses here in Israelis, which were not successful. I had worked with SunGold Foods in Fargo, setting up a national sales network for them of people to sell bulk ingredients for them. And they said, we really want somebody to make something like Smucker's Uncrustable and making it with sunflower butter because there's so much allergies to peanuts. So I went into the job of doing that, but to compete with Smucker's was not easy. They make their own jelly, they make their own bread, and so forth. But I did have a good product. It just we couldn't scale it. I had to sell 10 million sandwiches a year just to break even. So I couldn't make that work. I don't know him. Famous Dave. I don't know how that got in there. Anyway,
you met the real famous Dave.
I met the real famous Dave.
That's pretty cool.
He's famous in his own mind. Yes. So the Institute of Ministry, so there are two retreat centers here, which Joe Durstein had started, one here and one down in Florida in Bradenton, and so I went down and studied under him when he was 93 years old, and he passed away the following year, so I was very grateful for that. He was an interesting man from the standpoint, he wasn't, for instance, Marcos, the president of the Philippines, asked me to Christianize half the Philippine Islands, and he said, why me? He said, because you aren't a religion, you aren't a specific denomination, says it's got to look this way. He was just a follower of Christ, just a follower of Christ. So anyway, I went down there and studied there. How did this get? This is all mixed up. Okay, this is the International Rotary Convention in Atlanta. This is Martin Luther King's daughter and myself. We met her there, and also met some other people, which I'm so glad to have met to talk there. So on our peace polls, we dedicated for the Japanese World Peace Prayer Society, and then for Rotary. This is one of our park. That was kind of a good picture. Some of the people here with the Rotary, well, long story. You probably know some of these people anyway. So we dedicated, this is at the Essentia Rotary Park, across from Holy Rosary, across from the Essentia Hospital. And so we've got the Rotary program down there. We dedicated the Peace Pole. That's Matt Brink, our mayor, talking at this point. I got lots of different pictures. We released doves there, an article in the papers about us. It was right next to the helipad. Now, the helipad wasn't there. Now they put the helipad in. And Peter Jacobs said he couldn't raise money for preventing problems, but he said we can raise $500,000 for a pad for a helipad to sit on. He did, of course. Anyway, one of my projects when we, the president of Rotary, was that we, at that time, I don't know if we're even still doing it, each Rotary president had a project. Mine was going to be a place in Uganda, for a place I've done in Uganda that didn't work out with the Gehrke Rotary Club. But mine was doing benches, so we had the Rotary benches, so we had field at the soccer park and that sort of thing. But this is at the Rotary, Central Rotary Park there. As president, I see a couple of people you might recognize there. Dave Long was there at the International Convention in Atlanta too. So many pictures, a couple of people you may recognize. Jesse, thanks for showing up today. These two are amazing because they did farm to table, the emphasis on food for me. We have this, it was at the Detroit Lake Mountain, and so that was the theme of it. And they surprised me, which he said, what do we remember though? It surprised me by having Tamika Bratton come and we had s'mores and they did outside. I don't know, these pictures are not in order, but that's okay. So, Manna Food Co-op, one of the honors I had, the two businesses I tried to start in town here, making sunflower butter and so forth, didn't materialize. But Wendy Gordon had asked me if I would help her start Manna Food Co-op because I had some business background, and she didn't have that, and that was the area she was everything. So we've connected and it's still connected today. And she had her first presentation about Manna Food Co-op was here with this group here. I remember it was a very good presentation. So I was fortunate to work with some tough hombres here. But anyway, after these are not in order, I thought, completely got scrambled, doesn't matter, I'll just tell you what this is. So basically, at Strawberry Lake Christian Retreat, I met this man named Jonathan Kahn, who was a Hebrew understanding scholar, and so, but also was a follower of Yeshua, Jesus. So I decided to go with him to Israel, and here I was baptized in the Jordan River. And at 73 years old, I decided to jump out of an airplane, and they put that in the paper. So, okay, I just don't. This is a couple years ago we decided to write a book. Diane and I did, and we would write about our experience with Aborigines in Australia. And it became too big a project, so we suggested we just write something small and we could publish this show, we could publish a book. So we did what we call it Fearless by Design. And it's a little book we published, it's on Amazon and so forth. So we learned how to publish was the goal anyway, even though we haven't done it. So then I went on the honor flight from Fargo to Washington, D.C. A couple years ago, and that was I just made this card to give people from war to peace, so as an officer, and then as the peace work with here and with Rotary. This is just basically the latest thing I'm involved in. I got involved very much with food and nutrition, all that sort of thing. And long stories about all of that, from selling anything that was legally saleable in food, which I did. Patches which work with your internal energy, your body, you don't add anything to the body. So it's about energy. So you've got food and nutrition, you got energy. So my goal is to stay alive at least one more year to be part of Rotary. Yeah. So this is from our international convention for this company called LifeWave. Hard to even tell it, but basically they're trying to figure a way to, they're inventing, they invent things. And so yes, work with energy of your body, they did work with the Olympians and so forth, but then the little patches, but then they have a deliverance. They started a drone company in Denmark, and so they're making drones and stuff like that. So very forward thinking, they're infusing light into water, infusing light into different things. So I think that's probably the end of it. No, that's another little story. That's my daughter Lori, between her junior and senior in high school. She was in a ski accident in Mount Hood in Oregon and crushed her skull and had part of her brain removed, part of her skull removed, and froze that in a bone bank. And basically she survived, married, 2 kids, assistant teaching in schools. And so I've had the experience of directing incredible miracles thanks to a lot of prayers and a lot of help and a lot of natural healing and a lot of good doctors who knew how to do the brain surgery but didn't have a clue what to do after she survived. So yeah, I could go on about many things. I think that's probably it. That's this video, if anybody wants to stay and watch. The video was on television. My miraculous healing was on television several times in the Twin Cities, and different stations did it, about how it was question how she came back and survived and how she was thriving. And I think we're out of time. So if somebody might watch that, I could turn that on again probably. But That's a little bit of a sense of 85 years.
Good job, Ed. Good job.
Thank you, Ed. I'm sorry we didn't have a little bit more time, but man, what a life you have lived. And you did a great job. Thank you for sharing with us. For our meeting next week, we are going to be here. We're going to talk about soccer with Gary, and I think we also have a senior, Dalton, I think is his name, presenting that week, next week too. So with that, I will see you guys next week. Thank you for coming.